All right. I'm with Brock Colterjohn of Onyx Gold, ONYX, on the TSX Venture. And Onyx has caught the market's attention in a big way in the last month with what appears to be a new discovery at the Angus North zone at their Timmins property. Good morning, Brock. How are you?
Hey, good morning, Rob. Thanks for having me. I appreciate the time.
Yeah, my pleasure. I've been wanting to have this conversation for a few weeks. We spoke briefly in Arizona back in April, but just for a few minutes. I want to delve into this discovery and what has happened with Onyx in the last month, because there's been quite a bit of news flow. So it started in early April with the announcement of the 69.6 meters of 3.4 grams per ton. And this is interesting. Basically, you extended a hole to depth and basically tagged into what is a new gold zone. Can you tell us about that and what led you to do that?
Yeah, so this hole is a completely new discovery. It's 100 meters north of the main zone, Angus main, that we've been identifying for the last about 18 months to 2 years. Angus main is about a half gram to 1+ gram bulk tonnage open pittable type of target, hosted by the Pipestone, which is a major structural within the camp. And the closest deposit that's also hosted by the Pipestone is the Fenn-Gibb deposit, 4.4 million ounces, sub-gram, open pittable, 6 kilometers away from this discovery. So while we were advancing that new discovery towards the west, as Angus main was getting stronger mineralization, we completed a fence of holes around a hole that was drilled in 2023. So the northern hole that was drilled up dip from that 2023 hole. Basically what happened was we went through the main zone, and about 100 meters past the zone, the geologist went out about 1 a.m. And saw some encouraging mineralization and said, hey, to the drillers, drill for the rest of the night shift and shut down. So what he didn't realize, though, by telling him to drill for the rest of the night shift, was he actually extended the hole by about 25 meters or so across the property boundary onto a patent claim that's held by a family for 103 years. So once we realized that the next day, we immediately told the family and gave them the assays. Wasn't ours, so that remaining 25-30 meters, we'd give it to them, and we started negotiating a deal to acquire that single cell patent claim. So what we did was, so we drilled that complete hole in April of last year. It took us 10-11 months to negotiate to close that deal, but in the near term, we announced what we could announce on our side in September of last year. So that at that point it was about 50 meters of 1.9 grams, and so that's what we reported. And then upon completing that transaction with the family, like I said, has had this patent claim for 103 years, we were able to announce the full intercept. So basically, like I said, it wasn't our data, so we had to negotiate for it, so we couldn't announce it, and there was no certainty of completing that transaction. So that's why you saw in that April 10th news release, it was the discovery hole, so it was the restated hole, as that was the complete intercept, as well as announcing that property acquisition.
So let me get this right. This hole was drilled last year, but a portion of it was drilled to depth onto this private patented ground. And so that's why you couldn't announce it until you close this transaction?
Yeah, that's right. So basically it wasn't our data. Obviously it's theirs. So it was a complete accident. There's nothing on surface that gave us indication or anything like that. It was just simple geologist going in the middle of the night, not really thinking other than seeing some encouraging mineralization, and decided to extend it just for the night shift. So it was a happy accident. We're in the end, we're glad it happened, because it was able to finally come to an agreement with that family. We've been trying to buy that claim for several years, so that confirmed the family's, belief that there could have been something significant underneath their patent claim. And we had 80+ 100% of that intercept. So it continued onto their property. So, obviously we had to come to a deal that was mutually beneficial for both parties. And so we got that out of the way, which allowed us to re-announce that hole, which was the complete intercept. So, and what's great about it is, like I mentioned, is, we just told them to drill for the rest of the shift and shut down. So the hole actually ends in anomalous mineralization. So we're not completely out of the zone yet. So the first thing we're doing, which we actually have, we announced on Friday, the commencement of our phase 1 10,000 meter program in Timmins, with the bulk of it focused on expanding this zone. It's completely one drill. It's only one drill hole, so it's completely unconstrained. And the reason why it's never been drilled before is because it's been held back because of that patent claim, right? The family has had it controlled it for 103 years. It was their great grandfather bought the claim with the belief that he could potentially have the next Croesus mine, which we control. Remember, the Croesus mine is the highest grade past producing mine in Ontario. It produced spectacular gold grades. It was small, but it was absolutely bonanza grades, 19,000 ounces per ton, 25% by weight gold. So that created a staking rush. So we've done over 30 deals in this to consolidate this land position and grow it more than 30-fold. In 2019, it was less than 4 square kilometers. Now it's 108 square kilometers. So significant growth. A lot of that had to do with consolidating these patent claims that families had for 100 plus years in belief, what they originally bought it with the belief of trying to find the next Croesus. So, yeah, when we tagged into that, obviously, like I said, we started negotiating and we came to a deal that was mutually, acceptable for both terms. And now they're a large shareholder, and now they can participate on this discovery. So, like I said, the first thing we'll be doing here is extending this hole, because it ended in mineralization. We just told them to drill for the rest of the night and shut down. So we are currently extending that hole. And then we will extend the other 2 holes that are below it, because the holes are already completed. Easy, it doesn't take many meterage to get right into the zone. So we're excited about that. That's step 1. Step 2 would be drill up dip towards surface. So complete that fence towards depth and at surface. And then we'll do a 50 plus meter step outs on either side. And then once we get a handle of that orientation of this discovery by completing those 3 fences, we'll be able to do much more significant step outs and really expand this thing in a hurry. And obviously with the oversubscribed private placement, the bot deal that we did last week, we topped up the treasury. We brought in a strategic, so we're very well funded to advance this throughout the rest of the year.
Very interesting. So this is a private patented claim, which from my experience is not very common in Canada. So this is a claim that was put into existence, I guess, around the 1920s. And as you said, this family bought it, or the great-grandfather bought it, with the idea that he was going to find another gold mine here. It's very interesting, because what rights does private patented claim, entitle to the claim holder, as opposed to normal claims in Canada?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So patent claims actually they stopped giving them, issuing them around the mid to late 50s. And basically what patent claims give you is mineral rights and surface rights. So, it gives you a significant amount of control on the land. And what it does, though, versus a normal state claim, that you go out and stake some crown land, you have to work it, right? So there's a certain amount of assessment work you need to do to keep them in good standing, or else you lose them, right? For patent claims, it's actually, you just pay a tax. And in some cases, this could be as little as like $100 a year to maintain. So that's why, these families have been able to hold on a patent claim for 100 years, because it's a pretty nominal figure, right? To maintain them. And that's the thing. And so, a lot of locals like to use them because you like I said, you own the surface rights. So people will buy a patent claim and, set up a hunt camp and stuff like that. So they're pretty lucrative. And what's great about it for us is, about almost 2/3 of our Munro Creases property is patent claims. So we just largely pay taxes on it. But, because we own the surface rights, it's actually much more streamlined on permitting. So, we can, you don't need to permit, trenching and certain levels of exploration, which is great because it accelerates timelines. And also because, like I said, you own the surface rights, right? So they're great. But also, they don't issue them anymore for many decades. So, they have a lot of benefits to them for sure.
So it took you a little while to come to this deal, and I did notice the option terms. It wasn't cheap option terms, and that's obviously because they had this data about the drill intercept, and also patented claims in this location are definitely going to sell for a premium. But it was very important for you to lock this up, so you had the full play essentially, intact. So I guess my next question is, you're going to drill this further down dip to test how far this structure extends down dip, and then you're going to re-enter a couple other holes further at depth. Yeah. And then, just basically try to get a better understanding of what's going on here. How much potential is there for expansion of this, like to the west, to the north?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So with this transaction is now we completely own this whole area, right? So we surrounded them, so it was a natural, and is only a single cell patent claim. So there's very limited options the family could do because we completely surround it. So with that acquisition and now behind us, we are completely unconstrained in all directions, and it's open. So like I said, this discovery is hosted by our proximal to the Pipestone, which is, like I said, it's a major regional scale structure that's known to host several multi-million ounce deposits. So part of our consolidation strategy on this property was to consolidate that Pipestone because it's a very fertile system. So now we have over 8 kilometers of strike length of that Pipestone Fault. So that is great hunting ground. So that's how much space we have to grow. Obviously I'm not saying the whole 8 kilometers is going to be mineralized, but there's a completely open and a lot of this area has been grossly underexplored because it's been so fragmented, despite being right across the highway. This discovery is 3 kilometers away from McEwen Mining's Black Fox complex, so a producing underground mine right now. And like I said, it's 6 kilometers away from Mayfair Gold's Fenn-Gibb deposit, 4.4 million ounce development project, hosted by the same structure of this discovery. So there's a lot of exploration we can do, and we're really excited to expand it. So it's open in all directions. Like I said, we're going to extend the discovery hole first because it's obviously it's already in the zone, so we'll continue to push it, which will help inform how long we want to do the additional extension holes below it. And then we'll drill it up towards surface, and then we'll start to do those 50-meter step outs on either side. Once we get that understanding, that's where we can really start to demonstrate the scale by doing some larger step outs and really get going. And, it's a phase 1 program. We'll start about probably 5,000 meters to just at Angus North itself. And then it's completely open. But even Angus, the main zone, there's a Barton Creek fault, which is a northeast trending fault that intersects with a Pipestone. On the west side of that fault is the same host rock as Angus and Angus North, and it's about a 950-meter long ridge of the same host rock as the 2 discoveries. And we're getting multi-gram grab samples and same alterations, similar looking stuff, and it's completely undrilled. So that's another target that we really want to investigate as well, because obviously, that's a big target of the same host rock, and that allows us, to really start to increase the scale potential of this discovery. So, basically to recap, 5,000 meters a minimum around Angus North, expanding this new discovery. It's early days, 1 drill hole, but we're really bullish about the opportunity here. And then Angus West, we'll put a couple thousand meters, so drilling some fences, and we really like that opportunity as well. And then even the eastern side of the Angus, like I said, there's about 6 kilometers of strike length on the east side of the zone which is the Pipestone before we hit Fenn-Gibb, that's grossly underexplored as well. So there's opportunities to drill that as well. And with that recent raise, we'll have a significant treasury. We can drill 25,000-30,000 meters easily if we were like what we see without having to tap the market at all. And we still have plenty of flow through in addition to drill more than that as well. So we got to, Timmins, one of the great benefits is, it's a mining camp. It's a mining country right up there, right? It's 80 million ounces of, gold production. So it's got a lot of existing mills, a lot of manpower, streamlined permitting, established agreements with First Nations, and drilling is very inexpensive. It's $200 all in Canadian a meter to drill there. So money goes a long way for an exploration company. So we can really, get a lot of work done with the drill bit here for a modest amount of capital, which is great.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great gold camp. Well, what do you say to people who say, well, this is not Timmins, it's too far away from, Timmins to be Timmins?
Yeah, I kind of, you could get in the weeds and argue that, but, for us is, we're hosted by the same major structure. So the Pipestone trucks, starts all the way in the Timmins area. Actually the Kid Creek mine, one of the deepest base metal mines in the world, underground mines in the world, is hosted by the Pipestone, right? So that's over 100 kilometers away towards the west, just north of Timmins. So, we have all the right rocks. This is Kinmonroe volcanics. You see that stuff around Timmins. So we have the right geology, right structures. It's 75 kilometers to the east. We have, the pipe. And is there big deposits around us? We have McEwen Mining's Black Fox complex is a 3.5+ million ounce deposit, a complex of multiple deposits. Fenn-Gibb's 4.4 million ounces. And then right beside them is the Stellar's Golden Highway project, which is over 13 million ounces. So yeah, we're not a stone's throw away from this. The specific property is not a stone's throw away from the mega mines in downtown Timmins, but we're still in a very well endowed area of the Timmins camp overall, that we're surrounded by multi-million ounce deposits. We got the right geology, the right structures. So I think big picture, it's the same opportunity. And look, like we also have other properties that are right downtown Timmins, right? We have our Golden Mile property, it's 150 square kilometers, just directly to the north of Timmins. We also have our Timmins South property, which is right beside, just south of, Discovery Silver Palmer, so we also have projects that are right beside, the Timmins and the mega mines as well. But we like Monroe Croesus a lot because, you go back to what I said is that consolidation, that fragmented ownership that has led to, a dearth of discoveries. So, as we've been putting the pieces back together, you start to see the full picture of the puzzle, right? And that's what we like. And we've been consolidating kind of that prime geological real estate that, like I said, it's known to host multi-million ounce deposits around us. So so we saw the opportunity and decided to take on it. And I think that this eastern part of the camp is fabulous for that opportunity. There's a lot of exploration upside from here.
With hole 163, when it was first drilled last year, why was the hole shut down when it was shut down? Did you feel like you were out of the zone at the bottom of the hole?
No, just basically was already running long, and we were pretty capital constrained, right? So that's another thing about the opportunity of these Timmins assets, or as a whole. Like, you got to take a step back and think about, okay, well, Onyx was the result of a spin-out from High Gold Mining in 2023, right? And High Gold was focused on Johnson Tract, which is a high-grade gold project in Alaska. It was standalone at that time. So, but Alaska's expensive, and there was recent years ago, it's like pretty tough markets. So there's only a certain amount of capital you could allocate to your secondary portfolios in Canada, right? So the long and short of it is these projects have been capital constrained, and so and even on Onyx, we raised $8.4 million non-brokered on when we spun this out on the gold public financing, but over $3 million went to Yukon that summer, right? So we didn't allocate. Yukon was our focus. It's still, we love Yukon and opportunity, and happy to talk about it at some point. But they, we still didn't spend a whole lot of money in Timmins. So, like I said, this property's been pretty capital constrained. So that's why we shut it down. It's like extended for another 30 meters. It was already running pretty deep, and then shut it down. So that was, and now with this type of treasury, we're just going to keep drilling until, something changes or looks, starting to look pretty dead. So, but, so far so good.
Very good. Let's talk about the financing and how it came together. I know you already had one major as a shareholder prior to this. It seems like you played your cards very well just based upon the financing price. You didn't like jump at an offer in the first week after the news. I think shareholders have done pretty well based upon the terms that have that were announced last week. What can you tell us about the financing and how it came about?
Yeah, so I think the providing context so it would be helpful as well. So when we did that go public round, I mentioned that $8.4 million financing. It was a unit deal, so there was actually a half warrant at 75 cents. It was 2 years, so it was expiring July of this year, so in a couple months, and we decided to reprice them at 30 cents earlier this year in January. We got the approvals to do it. So when we announced this discovery, it had an accelerator. So if we traded at 37.5 cents for more than 10 consecutive 10 trading days, they would be accelerated. So that's $2.1 million worth of warrants that came in. That provided us an opportunity to have that optionality, right? So we announced the discovery, we re-rated, cash was coming in, and so that provided some flexibility on when we wanted to go back to the market. It allowed us to start drilling as well. We have 2 drill rigs turning across 2 properties right now in Timmins, so it allowed us to get a head start. And then we could start to selectively, when the right shareholders and the right price came in, obviously flow through. We're Canadian assets using hard dollars that come from the proceeds of the warrants. Obviously doable, but hard dollars are pretty precious for an exploration company. So if you can leverage full through, dollars at a 43% premium, obviously you're going to utilize that. So the question was just on timing. So we had took our time. We went out, talked about the story. We saw each other in Phoenix. We were at the Scottsdale conference right on the back of the results, and then we were absolutely slammed with a lot of meetings, corporate, institution, retail, all that stuff. So when the timing came and when we had a good interest and the right price, that's when we put it all together. So, but it was great. We were able to be selective, and we didn't have our backs to the wall. So with those warrants proceeds, so it allowed us, like I said, to provide that right timing.
How does it feel to go from, I guess, somewhat, I would say the company was a bit obscure last year. Obviously, the 2024 market was a bit harder than the 2025 market, but how does it feel to be a junior mining CEO and go from relative obscurity to now being sort of a market favorite overnight?
I mean, that's the thing, and people tend to forget how many years it takes to be an overnight success, right? And how much effort and trial and tribulation it goes through to finally get to that moment. For us, like I said, it took 10 months of negotiating, right? So we took the decision to be, we had a good amount of treasury still, so we took and we have a really tight share structure. So it was like, let's be disciplined, negotiate the deal. Now, I didn't think it was going to take 10 months to do this, but let's not raise money at these depressed levels. We have a discovery here. Let's get the terms and let's get this deal done before we do anything, right? So it was kind of tough to be quiet and not do anything for kind of 10 months. There's probably some frustration out there, but obviously we had to be disciplined and see what's going on, because obviously this is a significant discovery. And so now it's finally out. It's exciting. I guess there's some silver lining. By the time we're able to get the deal out, the market did turn to our favor. So it was a great market to put out a brand new discovery, especially one in Canada and in a mature camp within Canada, that you typically see the highest premiums for these type of discoveries, right? We saw the Great Bears. We saw these different other stories that garner significant value premiums because they're mature mining camps that are looking for the next discovery, and people were it's worth paying top dollar for those discoveries. So we're excited. I think this is only the beginning. Yeah, you might look at our share price chart, and say, wow, that's moved a lot, but we're still getting back to a market cap that kind of makes sense for a Canadian exploration story, let alone one with a significant early day gold discovery. So I think there's still a lot of, we can still continue to move quite significantly here, especially, like I said, we're drilling. The next, 15 to 20 holes are going to be very critical. Because it's one hole discovery, we got to de-risk this thing with the next few holes. But if we get 5 or 6 that are as positive as what we had today, I think it doesn't take much to be in the hundreds of millions of market cap, just because of that dearth of discoveries we see in the market, let alone quality ones in mature mining camps that are extremely hungry for new discoveries. There's 6 mills, most of them are half full or under significant under capacity, and the average mill head grade is less than 4 grams. So we're right in that discovery grade with that could be mined today. So it's pretty exciting.
You talked about Fenn-Gibb, that's owned by Mayfair Gold. The bloom has sort of come off the rose there with Mayfair, and obviously there's been a lot of things going on the last couple of years with that company at the corporate level. Is Mayfair a valid comp? Or who would you point to say, that's what we're shooting for?
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, I mean, Fenn-Gibb is a good analog because it's 6 kilometers away, hosted by the same structure. A little bit different geology, but same mineralizing host, structure, which is, that big plumbing system, which you need for these orogenic gold systems, right? You need that conduit, that pathway for fluids to come up from deep down in the earth. And so that gives us a good, comparable. And, they're about, I believe, a 200 million market cap around there. And if you look at their database that's in the public domain for that 4.4 million ounce resource, and there's about 156,000 meters in that database. And if you filter out in that database any interval greater than 10 meters of 2 grams, that hole 163 is the best intercept in their database of almost 600 holes. So that gives us a little bit of confidence as well about where this discovery could ultimately lead, given they drilled almost close to 600 holes in that discovery, and this is the best intercept of anything over 2 grams of 10 meters, right? So that's pretty exciting. The other, I think the closest analog in terms of geology is the lightning zone at Holt Holloway, about less than 20 kilometers away.
Okay, and then I guess last couple of questions here. I think investors always like to know about how many confidentiality agreements you've signed and who's interested. Have you had any site visits or confidentiality agreements signed in the last few weeks?
We have already 3 gold producers in our corporate registry. So, we've certainly been busy. So I'll just leave it as that.
Okay, and then what's the drill doing right now? Is it in that hole again, going to depth?
Yeah. So we have 2 drill rigs from Major Drilling. And one of them is on our Monroe Creases property, following up on that hole 163 discovery at Angus North. So we're drilling there as we speak. We also have the second drill rig is actually at our Golden Mile property. That's one I was talking about, 150 square kilometer land position, just northeast of Timmins downtown. And that's drilling basically some northern splays of the Pipestone. So that's over, we're basically trying to chase the Pipestone over there. It's all 30, 40 meters of overburden. So there's no outcrop on the property, which is why that property is grossly underexplored. So it's not fragmented ownership. It's in this case, there's a shallow lake, and then the overburden around the lake is about 30, 40 meters. So, that challenges your drilling blind, but you can see it's got all the right host rock, the Kinmonroe volcanics, ultramafics, the porcupine seds, and the major structures that are known to host these high-grade Timmins style underground mines. So we got all the right ingredients there. And so what we're doing, like I said, is we're chasing the Pipestone about 55 kilometers away, northwest of where we're drilling right now at Monroe Creases. So we really like the opportunity of the Pipestone as a whole, the big picture. That's about 1,500 meter program or so. So once that is done, we'll if we like what we see at Angus North, we'll probably bring that drill rig over to Monroe Creases. So we'll have a multi-rig program And if we continue like what we're seeing, we can always scale up above that. We have the manpower and the capability to run a multiple drill bit program here. So it's pretty exciting days.
You mentioned the cost to drill is cheaper in Timmins. What's the cost exactly?
It's $200 Canadian all in.
Wow.
So it includes, house rentals, everything you can imagine.
200 Canadian. What the hell is happening in the US that it's 500 US a meter to drill in Arizona?
Yeah.
Why is the gap so big?
Timmins is obviously home to a lot of mines, and so that means we need a lot of drilling. So there's multiple competitors, there's lots of rigs, and frankly, you don't need camps, right? So the drillers literally drive from their house, and there are some of them are 20 minutes, half an hour away from the drill rig. So it's fabulous. So there's no housing costs, there's nothing like that for the drillers. So their direct cost per meter is very, very fair, which is great, or compared to other jurisdictions. So it's a great situation. That's one of the benefits of Timmins. Even last year when we raised $1.5 million of flow through in March of last year to fund these follow-up drill programs in Timmins, and money goes a long way. It gave us a lot of the flexibility and the opportunity to drill these discovery holes to where we are today, right? So it's pretty amazing how far money can go in a jurisdiction like that, thanks to that mature situation.
$10 million gets you 50,000 meters of core drilling in Timmins. That's pretty incredible. Thank you, Brock. I really appreciate your time, and I look forward to more news from Onyx Gold over the coming weeks and months.
Yeah. Stay tuned. Thanks a lot. Appreciate your time, Rob. Thanks, everybody.